Sapper sat at the edge of his twin-sized bed, elbows resting on his knees, head bowed. The sun was just starting to rise over the city skyline, casting a soft golden glow through the cracked blinds of his one-bedroom apartment. The place was modest, clean, but old. A chipped mug on the counter, a stained couch he got from a shelter, and a scarred wooden floor that creaked like it remembered too much. Sapper didn't have much, but he had peace. Most days, that was enough. Some days, it wasn't. He had been out of prison for 3 years now. Long enough to learn how to fake a smile for the neighbors. Long enough to memorize the bus schedule and never miss his shift at the auto shop. Long enough to make people stop looking over their shoulders when he walked past. But not long enough to forget who he used to be. Who he still might become if the wrong switch flipped. His co-workers didn't know much about him. Just that he worked hard, didn't talk much, and always kept his distance. Joe, the shop manager, sometimes tried to crack jokes with him. Sometimes they even landed. But Sapper rarely laughed. He was always watching, measuring, calculating the weight of every word, every look. It wasn't paranoia. It was habit. Old habits die slow. That morning, as he laced up his work boots, he reminded himself of the promise he made. Never again. No matter what. Never again. He whispered those words like a prayer. Then he stood up, grabbed his lunch bag from the fridge, and locked the door behind him. The walk to the bus stop was quiet. City sounds filtered through the streets, early risers, garbage trucks, sirens somewhere far enough away to ignore. He passed a man curled up under a blanket behind a dumpster, and for a moment he paused. He reached into his pocket, pulled out a folded $5 bill, and slipped it into the man's shoe without a word. That was Sapper. Quiet kindness. No spotlight. At the shop, he changed into his coveralls and got to work. Grease on his hands, sweat on his brow, his mind locked into the rhythm of engines and wrenches. That was one of the few places where his mind felt clean. Machines didn't lie. They didn't betray. They broke down and got fixed. Simple. But around noon, something stirred. A customer, yelling in the front office. Joe was trying to calm him down, but the guy wasn't having it. He was red in the face, waving his arms, spit flying from his lips. Then Joe said something that made the man shove him. Hard. Sapper heard the scuffle and looked up from under the hood of a Camaro. His hands froze. He watched. It was like a movie inside his head. That man's face was familiar, not because he knew him, but because he had seen hundreds like him before. Aggressive. Entitled. The kind of guy who thought violence made him strong. Sapper's jaw clenched. His fingers twitched. His feet began to move before he realized it. He reached the front just as the man threw a wrench to the floor, cussing Joe out. Joe looked over at Sapper and shook his head slightly. It's fine, man, he said under his breath. I got it. But Sapper didn't answer. He stepped between Joe and the customer, standing still as stone. The customer stared at him, eyes narrowing. What, you his bodyguard? Sapper didn't blink. You need to leave. The man sneered. Or what? Sapper's nostrils flared. He felt it rise in him, the old flame. The furnace of rage that once made him feared on the streets. He heard the blood pounding in his ears. His hands curled into fists at his sides. He saw himself slamming the man against the wall, knee in his back, whispering violence like poetry. He saw it. Then he took a deep breath. Held it. Released it. Or I'll call the cops, he said quietly. And while you're waiting for them, you'll stand out front and think about how stupid this was. The customer paused. Measured him. Something about the calm in Sapper's voice made him hesitate. Then he cursed, shoved past him, and stormed out. The door slammed shut behind him. Silence. Joe sighed. Thanks, man. Sapper didn't answer. He just turned and walked back to the car, heart still racing. He didn't like that feeling. Not anymore. That night, he didn't sleep. He lay on his bed staring at the ceiling, thinking about how close it was. How close he was. He remembered the feeling of fists slamming into flesh. The heat in his chest when someone dared him. That thrill. That danger. He hated that it still lived in him. No matter how long he was out, it never really left. He kept a journal in the drawer beside his bed. Each night, he wrote a line or two. Sometimes it was just still clean, still breathing. Other times it was longer. That night, he wrote, came close today. Too close. I saw him, and I saw the old me. I didn't let him out. But he was right there, watching, smiling, waiting. The next few days were quiet. Routine. Bus, work, home. He volunteered at the shelter once a week, helping serve meals. Nobody asked about his past, and he didn't offer it. But the way he carried himself, people knew he had seen darkness. Kids listened when he spoke. They didn't know why. They just did. One boy, Malik, about 17, started showing up often. Skinny, twitchy, always looking over his shoulder. Sapper recognized that look. It was survival. He invited the kid to sit with him after dinner. "You got somewhere to be tonight?" he asked. "Nowhere worth going," Malik said, eyes on the floor. Sapper nodded. "You in something?" Malik looked up. "You a cop?" "No. I just know the signs." The kid hesitated, then shrugged. "Maybe. Just trying to make it, you know. Ain't many ways out." "There are ways," Sapper said, "but they cost more than most are willing to pay." Malik laughed. "Like what?" "Your pride, your anger, your past." The kid fell silent. Sapper leaned back. "You ever need someone to talk to, I'll be here." And he meant it. Over the next few weeks, Malik kept showing up. Sometimes they didn't talk much. Just ate. Saturday. Watched the news on the shelter's old TV. One night, Malik came in with a busted lip. Sapper didn't ask. He just handed him a bag of ice and let him be. Later that night, when the others had gone, Malik spoke. "They jumped me. My own guys. Said I was getting soft." Sapper didn't react. Just nodded. "They want you to need them. If you don't, they lose control." Malik looked at him. "How'd you get out?" "I didn't get out. I just stopped going back." Malik frowned. "Is that enough?" Sapper thought about that. The silence of his apartment. The absence of chaos. The ache of restraint. "No," he said softly. "But it's a start." Then came the day that tested everything. Sapper was walking home late from a shift. Streets mostly empty. He cut through an alley like he always did. That's when he heard it. A shout. A scuffle. He turned the corner and saw two guys roughing up Malik against a wall. One had a knife. The other was yelling something about money, respect, betrayal. Sapper didn't wait. He moved. Years of training, of muscle memory, exploded out of him. He grabbed the guy with the knife first, twisting his arm until the blade dropped. He shoved him into the wall with a thud, then turned to the second. That one threw a punch, but Sapper ducked, stepped in, and slammed his elbow into the kid's gut. They crumpled. Fast. Efficient. Malik stared wide-eyed. "Jesus." Sapper didn't speak. His chest heaved. His fists still clenched. The rage inside him screamed for more. For blood. For payback. But he stepped back. "Go home," he said. "But." "Go." Malik ran. Sapper stood there for a while, looking down at the two groaning bodies. He felt sick. Not from guilt. From the realization of how easy it was. How good it still felt. He walked home slowly. The rain started falling halfway there. He didn't run. Let it soak him. Maybe it would wash something off. When he got inside, he took off his wet clothes, dried off, and sat on the edge of his bed. He opened the drawer and pulled out the journal. "Tonight," he wrote, "I failed again, but I didn't fall all the way. I don't know if that counts, but I'm still here, still trying. The monster is still there, but I'm still the one holding the leash." There would be more days like this. He knew that. Days when the world begged him to return to the darkness. When the only language people seemed to understand was pain. But he also knew he had a choice. Every single day. That's all it was now. A life built on moments of restraint. A future carved from holding back. Sapper wasn't a hero. He wasn't even sure if he was good. But he was trying. And in a world like this, sometimes that had to be enough.